Incoming transmission.
Level 9 authorization required. Command codes verified.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Friend Zone. My name is Swizzle and this is Let's Talk. And today we are going to be covering the second episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called The Naked Now. Let's talk. The episode begins with the USS Enterprise responding to a distress signal from the USS Tsiolkovsky, a science vessel that has sent out some disturbing distress calls while investigating a collapsing red supergiant star. Upon arriving, the Enterprise crew receives a very flirty message from one of the Tsiolkovsky's crew. However, a sudden loud noise causes the crew concern, as they believe the noise is from an emergency hatch being opened. They beam over and investigate. The away team confirms that an emergency hatch was indeed opened. They see signs of a rather wild party with drink cups and clothing scattered about everywhere on the ship. In the process of their investigation, they discover members of the crew in various states of undress while being frozen in their rooms because someone had messed with the environmental controls throughout much of the ship. In a room full of such individuals, Geordi, while investigating a malfunctioning shower door, catches a frozen body falling from the shower and is covered with frost from the body. Riker reports back to Picard that everyone on the ship is dead. Picard consults with Dr. Crusher to try to ascertain what happened to the Tsiolkovsky's crew, but she is unable to find any reason. Picard calls for the away team to come back with maximum decontamination procedures in the transporters, followed up with examinations and cursory observations. The team transports back, and all but Geordi pass their examinations. Crusher points out that Geordi is sweating, and he kind of snapped that she has it too hot in here, which Riker points out that doesn't really sound like Geordi, and Crusher decides to keep him for one or two more tests. Riker then finds Data and asks him to retrieve something from the historical database about a person taking a shower with their clothes on. Data tells him it'll likely be several hours before he can find any information. Back in sickbay, Crusher is still examining Geordi, but no closer to an answer. Geordi gets off the bed, leaves his comm badge, and then slowly walks out of sickbay. Crusher discovers Geordi is missing, looks for him real quickly before calling security to report. Captain Picard upgrades the search for Geordi to a ship-wide search. We find Geordi with Wesley Crusher, and Wesley is showing him a portable tractor beam and a little voice recorder that allows him to play back people's voices that he's recorded from the intercom, including Captain Picard's. Which seems like a bad idea to let him keep it, but let's see how this plays out. Geordi tells him what a good job he's doing and gives him a few pats on the back, suddenly starts feeling hot, and then leaves. Tasha finds Geordi staring out of the windows in the observation lounge. He appears lost in thought, not even responding to his own name. He asks Tasha for help, but the help he wants is to be able to see. This entire time, Geordi and Tasha have been touching each other's hands, and Geordi touches her face. Tasha convinces him to allow security to escort him back to sickbay. Tasha reports what happened in the observation lounge to Captain Picard, and he dismisses her, but before she leaves, she realizes that she is sweating a little bit and wipes the sweat away. Crusher gives Geordi a hypo spray, but says that none of our instruments say that there's anything wrong with him. Picard reiterates that everyone on the Tsiolkovsky died, and asks if whatever affected the Tsiolkovsky's crew could be loose on the Enterprise. Crusher informs him that it couldn't be a disease because the transporter was on full decontamination, and they examined everybody. She limits it to emotional trauma or madness, and then asks Troy if she can sense anything from Geordi. However, all she can sense is confusion, as if he was drunk. But Crusher says that her examination and scans have eliminated any type of alcohol, drugs, or hallucinogens that could be in his system. Data asks Riker if he can provide some more information about his search, because while searching for a random encounter of someone showering in their clothes is basically like looking for a needle in a haystack, which is a small digression that they go off on. Through the digression, Riker realizes that the story he heard was from a previous ship carrying the name Enterprise. A brief search pulls up the Constitution-class Enterprise commanded by James T. Kirk, where, when observing a collapsing planet and dealing with gravity shifts, a collection of water molecules bonded with some carbon, and this water-carbon molecular combination affected the body in the same way that alcohol does. Not really a disease, but possessing the characteristics of one. Picard calls Dr. Crusher and tells her that the cure for what is affecting Geordi is on her computer. Troi goes back to her quarters and finds Tasha there going through her closet. Tasha is kind of flirty and a little breathless. Troi tries to get her to open up, but Tasha changes her mind and decides to go clothes shopping at the ship's stores. Giggling, Tasha leaves. Wesley shows his mom how his portable tractor beam works. Crusher asks him to stay in their quarters because she's afraid of him getting infected. Before he leaves, he asks why it's so hot. Picard calls and asks if she's tried the cure that they found, but she hasn't tested it yet. Tasha struts her way through the ship, making out with an extra, while in the background we see extras in various states of public displays of affection or indicating that they are hot by fanning themselves. Data informs the captain that they have about 40 minutes left on downloading Tsiolkovsky's data. The captain asks what is the danger from the collapsing star. Data informs him that they could still outrun any stellar debris at half impulse. In engineering, both the chief and the assistant chief engineer are called away, seemingly by Captain Picard. Wesley arrives just as the assistant chief engineer is leaving, and he offers to watch engineering for him. The chief engineer reports to the bridge, but Picard says he never ordered her to report to the bridge, and wanted her to in the engine room in case they had to leave. That's when Picard comes over the intercom and announces that Wesley would be the new acting captain. Wesley took over the engineering section with his portable tractor beam that he turned into a repulsor beam to mimic a force field. He allowed the assistant chief engineer back into engineering after he bumped against the force field a few times, but the assistant chief is drunk and no help in regaining control of the ship. Worf and Data start filling in the captain on some of the things happening around the ship. Data points out that there was a limerick running around about a woman from Venus, and I've always been more partial to the one about the man from Nantucket, but that's not important right now. What is important is that whenever Picard calls security and Tasha got on the comm, she was aggressively flirty with him, even going as far as calling him Jean-Luc. Picard orders Data to collect Tasha, and when Data gets to her cabin, she comes out of the sleeping quarters in a revealing outfit. Data informs her that Captain Picard wanted him to escort her to sickbay. Tasha asks if there was a time limit, and Data assures her he meant as soon as possible. Tasha indicates that she's dressed like this for Data, tells a little bit about surviving her childhood after being abandoned at 5 years old on a planet that specifically had gangs for sexual assault for 10 years until she escaped. She tells Data of the things that she wants and asks if he is functional enough to take care of those wants. Data helpfully informs her that he is, indeed, fully functional. With that, Tasha takes him to the bedroom to verify that functionality. In engineering, Riker informs the captain that the engines are cut off because the assistant chief pulled out the isolinear chips in the engineering command computer. Crusher tries a version of the treatment, but this first version of the treatment doesn't do anything. After Riker brings in Troi and then touches Crusher, Crusher figures out that the intoxication is passed through touch. She tries to quarantine Riker, but he lets her know that if they don't get the engineering command computer back online, they'll all be dead, and he leaves sickbay. Picard tries to reason with Wesley being intoxicated and eager to help, but not eager enough to give up control of engineering. Meanwhile, the star starts giving off some unusual readings while Picard is explaining to Wesley what is going on. Picard explains to Wesley that he needs control of his ship so that he can put a tractor beam on the Tsiolkovsky. Wesley, excited, says tractor beams are his specialty and closes the connection, at which point the star finally starts collapsing with increasing speed. The Enterprise throws a tractor beam on the Tsiolkovsky, and Data wanders back onto the bridge, obviously intoxicated. Crusher arrives and asks the captain to his ready room, where she proceeds to awkwardly flirt with him, to the point of throwing herself at him in front of what remains of the bridge crew. The star collapses, throwing a large chunk of stellar material directly for the Enterprise. Picard orders the Enterprise to leave the area, but they still do not have control of the ship as it has been severed from engineering. The chief engineer finally cuts power to Wesley's makeshift force field, gaining access to engineering, and immediately tells the assistant engineer that what he's playing with are control chips, not toys. The chief engineer informs Riker that there's no way she can get the control back to the bridge in time to escape the stellar matter heading in their direction. Wesley points out that Data can put the control chips back in. Riker takes Data to engineering and gets him started on putting. Data lets Riker know that he's not going to be able to finish putting all of the control chips in the time that they have left. Picard visits sickbay with a jaunty little bounce to his step and starts flirting with Crusher, and they realize that they are still not thinking correctly. After a flirty bit of back and forth, Crusher remembers that she has a treatment to try on Geordi. In engineering, Wesley is showing Riker how he was able to reverse the polarity on the field generator for his portable tractor beam, turning it into a repulsor beam. Data lets Riker know that in his best estimate that they only need one additional minute to be able to finish putting the control chips back in, and Wesley has the idea that he can do to the ship's tractor beam what he did to his portable tractor beam and turn it into a repulsor beam, pushing the Tsiolkovsky away and giving the Enterprise a little push from the stellar material to buy them a little more time. The new formulation that Crusher tries on Geordi is successful within a few seconds. Geordi is clear thinking and speaking once again. Crusher then administers the cure to Picard herself and then advises that it be distributed to engineering. She starts making additional hypos for the rest of the ship. In engineering, Riker lets Picard know that they're going to be short by a minute or so. Picard starts administering the cure around. Wesley finishes making changes to the tractor beam, which pushes the Tsiolkovsky away, giving them a little more time. With seconds to spare, Data finishes. Riker orders the bridge to engage engines, and the Enterprise warps away from the piece of stellar matter. When the bridge questions what pushed them away, slightly, at the last minute, Picard rightfully gives credit to Wesley for that little bit of saving grace. When Tasha returns to the bridge, she sees Data and lets him know that their off-duty activities never happened, and Data looks very confused, which I'm going to say is just him taking one more step on that long road to humanity. Picard announces that by working through the difficulties of the day, they have shown that they will be a fine crew. The Naked Now is a character-driven episode with a plot that primarily serves as a vehicle for exploring the personal dynamics among the Enterprise crew. The episode's pacing is brisk, moving from the discovery of the Tsiolkovsky's plight to the escalating effects of the contagion on the Enterprise crew. The central conflict, finding a cure and avoiding the impending disaster, serves as a backdrop for the exploration of the characters' vulnerabilities and desires. The pacing keeps the narrative engaging by alternating between moments of tension, comedy, and drama. All of that being said, many fans and critics felt that the episode fell short in execution, perceiving it as a weak rehash rather than a fresh take. As one of the earliest episodes, it showcased characters in uncharacteristic behavior due to the effects of a virus, which some fans found off-putting since the characters had not yet been fully established. The portrayal of certain characters, especially Data's intoxicated behavior, and the controversial intimate scene between him and Tasha Yar, received criticism for being out of character and poorly timed. Over the years, The Naked Now has often been cited as one of the weaker episodes of TNG, particularly in comparison to later, more developed stories, while fans and critics alike tend to agree that the episode had its humorous and entertaining moments, it did not live up to the potential of the series. However, despite the criticism, the episode remains notable for its early place in TNG history and its attempt to connect with the legacy of the original series. Overall, The Naked Now is seen as an ambitious but flawed episode that struggled with character development and originality. With that said, we're going to give it 4 spots. The least valuable character award is going to go to the assistant chief engineer, because after rewatching the episode, nothing he does is actually helpful, and his actions are the main threat to the ship once he is infected. Enjoy the dubious honor, my friend. That is all for this particular episode of Let's Talk. I would absolutely love to hear your comments and what you think of this episode in the comment section below. Well, that is going to be all for this episode of Let's Talk. Please like, subscribe, and share if you will. And as always, live long and prosper.